All right, beautiful people. Welcome back to another amazing and impactful episode of the True Health Forever podcast, where we try to live our best life through the lens of holistic health.
We got it.
Yeah, that was a little choreo. And by the way, that was not practice. That just happened. I was surprised to be honest with y'all. But I'm your host, Devon. You were ready for it the whole time?
Yeah.
Dancer. I mean, makes sense. I'm your host, Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. And as usual, I have with me the dancing, the choreographer, the whoa-rific queen herself. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, what is up, party people? Gotta keep it consistent.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd. And excited to be here on another Saturday afternoon. It's a lot of bit hot. It's really hot.
It's
hot even in here right now.
No, it's not. I wouldn't go that far. But outside, it is definitely hot. But she's a queen, so we got on the air conditioning. Because, what was it, Thursday I was in here doing office hours for Play Black Wall Street Academy.
Yeah.
And literally I came out and I was sweating.
Dripping sweat.
Dripping
Oh, I don't know if it was a power outage or what. Yeah, our AC just like cut off.
It was not messing
The
with
screen was blank. Let me get you right here.
Thanks,
I
Queen.
got you.
So can you talk about your week, Queen? How'd that week go for you?
Week was pretty good. I feel like it was a pretty chill week. Nothing crazy. We got another chef signed up on Potluck, which we talked about last podcast. So yeah, I'm chugging right along. I feel good. My energies are pretty solid, pretty high. Yeah, so pretty solid week.
Well done, Queen. I feel like for me, same. It was a pretty solid, productive week. Another week of Play Black Wall Street Academy. This was the first week that a student showed up for office hours.
Hey!
Right? Shout out. Thanks, Sage. Kaya, you did email me and we set up another time. Appreciate you too. But yeah, I think it was fun to actually engage with someone in office hours and not just sit there. Usually if no one comes, I just end up going to Instagram Live and just doing the same stuff there. So it's still engaging, but it was cool to be able to have like a student who read the curriculum, who had questions about the curriculum, come to office hours and get that situated. So that was fun and exciting.
Disneyland for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. She was like, I'm working on the budget, and my mom says, or she put in her future budget, 20 years from now, that she wants to have $100,000 per month in income. I was like,
speak
it. And the mom was like, maybe you should be more realistic. But then she told me, I was like, hey, you keep dreaming. If you're, I think she's like 16 years old. If you're 16 and your ambition is to make $100,000 per month, in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I feel like you're going to get close. Right? You may not get 100,000, but even if you're making 50,000 a month, that's a huge win.
Right. It's not like people aren't doing it, so it's like, why not you?
Right. And she even says, she was like, yeah, I did research on, I love that she did research, on one of my favorite YouTubers, and they make $30,000 a day.
Whew.
$30,000 a day. And they had like 2 million subscribers, so I mean, a lot of that's probably ads. But yeah, $30,000 a day. So she was like, if they can do that, then I think I can make at least $100,000 a month. And I was like, exactly. Great thinking. Sky is the limit for you.
Right.
So yeah, shout out to my scholars, pouring back into my cup and giving me energy, keeping me going, keeping me motivated, and being a teacher. Much love. Today's episode. So as y'all know, True Health Forever, we do talk about holistic health. We talk about spiritual health, physical health, social health, and today we are going to talk about what, Queen?
Economic health. Ooh. Specifically, real estate investing. And really that, you may wonder like, why are we talking about real estate investing on a health podcast? Well, and it's because of the link we kind of just explained, right? Economic health is one of our 4 pillars because it definitely a big factor to the holistic health that you live. If money is always a stressor, if you're always stressed, stress is physical sensation, and there is chemical reactions that are happening in your body when you're stressed. So if money is the main stress it's the main cause of divorces, it's probably one of the main stressors for adults. So if that's
and kids during the budget assignment in Playback Wall Street Academy, I saw one of the pictures of a student and they were just like, oh my god. And I commented, I was like, what happened? And the mom said they realized how thankful they are that I pay all their bills.
That's hilarious. Like, that's a lot of money.
They were really stressed. I'm like, geez, this is just pretend.
Right.
Yeah, your brain doesn't know the difference, right? We talked about that.
It doesn't.
Sorry, you were on a roll, Queen. Go ahead.
No, just because money. If we say money doesn't play a factor in your health, I think we're kidding ourselves. So that's why we include it as a part of our 4 pillars of health. And I think that a healthy, right, when you're talking about health in any of those 4 pillars, the first thing we should talk about is the mindset. So if we're talking about a mindset.
I feel like you're about to get into the episode.
Sorry.
And that's what it sounds like. I know you get into it, but you know we got a formula, Queen.
My bad,
all right?
my bad.
So, let's get into the episode. All right, Queen.
Yes.
Mindset is what you were about to just dive into before. All right, so go ahead, continue.
When you're talking about health in any of those 4 pillars, economic, spiritual, social, physical, the mindset is very important, and probably the first thing that you should start thinking about is what is a healthy mindset for someone who is physically healthy, socially healthy, all that good stuff. So I think when you're talking about and asking yourself what is a healthy mindset to have somebody who is economically healthy, I think it is growth versus scarcity is what comes to mind. I feel like so many of us grow up with the scarcity mindset. You're right. How many of us have heard money doesn't grow on trees?
Yeah.
Right. Everybody has heard
I've
that.
said it.
Right.
Turn off the air conditioning, Sinclair.
Right. Money doesn't grow on trees. So, right, we've all heard those mindset, and that's kind of the scarcity mindset on, right, money is there's a limited amount, there's only so much. So I think that growing up with that mindset, unfortunately, I think hinders you, if you aren't able to expand that mindset to a growth mindset, which is have your money grow for you. It should be working for you. And this is coming from one of the S2S podcasts, Secrets to Success podcast.
Shout out to the squad. Y'all know who you are.
Yep. They were saying, like, I think it was Carl saying, like, your money should be, like, treat your money like employees. Yeah. Like, if you started a company and your employees were drinking up whatever the product is, let's say you start a drink company and they're drinking up all the product, they're costing you money, you would be like, what are y'all doing? You're fired. So think about your money the same way. Your money is like little employees that should be out there making you money. So you should be investing it in things that are going to grow your assets and grow your money, grow your wealth, rather than buying things that shrink your wealth, like assets that are not assets, but things liabilities. Thank you, that don't grow, like a car. That's a liability. You buy it, it instantly decreases in value, and it will never increase in value again.
Right. Unless it's a collectible.
Yes.
Right? So if you buy like a rundown car, you fix it up, you put that sweat equity, you're still putting something into it,
right,
and then now it's worth more. I have 2 quick things, and I'm random.
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to be on point, but it also may be slightly random. But you were talking about growth mindset and scarcity mindset, and how we're taught and raised that money doesn't grow on trees, which is interesting because literally money is infinite and it's literally printed on paper, which comes from trees.
Like, it's actually false.
Right. So I feel like it's so interesting, and I wonder, like, who was the first person to say that, because I think it's very limiting as a person to think, oh, there's only so much money. But again, like, the government at any time when they want to, there's steps they need to go through. But at any time they can say, okay, we only have $1 trillion, let's print another $1 trillion, and all of a sudden, magically, there's $2 trillion now.
Yep.
Or even when you think of credit in the marketplace functions very exactly the same as paper money does.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I can apply for a credit card, have $0 one day, and then apply for a credit card, and all of a sudden I now have access to $10,000. Yeah, money is literally infinite. So if you have the mindset of abundance, if you have the mindset of always putting your money to work, then you too can have infinite access to money.
Right.
Second thing, money, when you have it in the paper format or when it's in your savings account, decreases in value every single year by at least 3%. That's just the kind of inflation rules. So every year, if you just put $10,000 and you don't invest it, it's just in like a Wells Fargo checking account, you're losing 3% of your dollars every year. So to Carl's point, to the Queen's point, you need to be putting your money to work to be making more than 3%. That way your wealth isn't decreasing every year automatically.
Right. Because if you're only putting a little bit in there, let's say if you're only putting in 3% and you're losing your 3%, you're literally
neutral.
You're literally not saving any more money. So yes, I think that I used to be kind of one of those people of like,
you sure were.
Yep, like let me just put it all into a savings and then, figure out what to do with it at some point. And it's
literally, like, there was X amount in the savings. I was like, Sinclair, can we use that? She was like, no, I want it there just in case. I'm just like, it's just there though. Like, can we please put that money to work somehow?
Yeah.
But you've come a long way, Queen. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're doing your thing now.
But why real estate?
Okay, so why real estate for me? And I think we've grown to come to similar mindsets to how to invest in real estate, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later. But from the beginning, I've been an ownership mindset type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Even in college, like sophomore year of college, I was like, hey, Dad, how can we collaborate to buy something?
Right.
We never did, but it was still my mindset. Like, how can we buy something? Because I'm paying $800, $900 in rent every month anyway. All my friends are paying $800, $900 a month anyway to some stranger who comes once or twice a year. Why not have us own it? So for us, if you're going to be paying rent anyway, if you're going to be operating a home business, it does make a huge amount of sense tax-wise and just ownership-wise to go ahead and own where you live, because again, that money is going to be spent regardless. Regardless, you spending that money. Regardless. You might as well get the tax benefits from it. So yeah, that's for me why real estate.
For sure. And I have a very similar reason. I feel like for me, is it risk averse?
Those sound like the right words.
I
don't like taking risks.
I am I'm an analytical person, so I take calculated risks. Which means like if I'm not some percentage sure, more than 50% sure,
more than 70% sure
that I'm going to get this back, I don't invest in it. So I'm not into stocks. Just because I don't really understand all that much how it works, but also because for me, real estate is a necessity. Not for me, for everybody. Real estate is a necessity, right? Like you said, whether you're renting or you're owning,
the money's being spent.
You're spending money regardless. So for me, I want to put my money into something that I know is not going anywhere. Yes, there are ups and downs in the housing market, but real estate, it's not going anywhere, right? You can invest in a company that all of a sudden tomorrow goes bankrupt and is no longer here. But everybody, as long as there are people on this earth, we're going to need a place to live. So I think that's, for me personally, what makes real estate a safer investment. Again, it's an investment, right? The idea of the investment, the in terms of the definition of what an investment is you're investing the money without 100%, guarantee that you're going to get it back. So there is still some risk. But to me, it is a lower risk when you're investing into real estate because, again, if you have a building, someone's going to live in it eventually, as long as you're making the right type of investments in the right type of properties, in the right areas. There's a lot that goes into it. But if you follow the formula, then I feel like it's almost inevitable that eventually you will be able to make that money back. So that's why I think that. So very similar, like, regardless, the money is being spent, so be on the collector side rather than the payer side.
Right.
Yeah.
So ways to be on either side.
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about real estate investing in the various different levels? Because
Yeah.
we know there's levels to this game.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's a couple different methods to real estate. We're not going to harp on too many of them except the one that we're trying to get into.
And so overall disclaimer, like, we are not real estate experts.
Nope.
All right, so we got our foot in it right now. We're about to put another foot in it, and then maybe in a few years we'll full on dive in. But yeah, this is just kind of talking about, you know, our own personal opinions, our own personal journeys, and kind of what we're currently thinking about doing. So again, not real estate experts. Definitely do some further research, but we still going to share our story and our perspective. Madam Queen.
So I'm going to go over very quickly categories of real estate investing. The first one is going to be super quick because to this day, it still confuses me, and that's wholesaling. But in a nutshell, that's like a person who finds usually distressed properties and basically like facilitates the buying process. Not an agent, but they find a seller, they find a buyer, and there is a difference between what the seller is selling versus what the buyer is going to buy, and they keep the difference.
Yeah, so for me, the wholesale person is the middleman, the flipper. You know, like you're literally.
But they're not flipping. They're usually selling to a flipper.
I got you. I'm talking about like flipper in the sense that I'm buying this and then selling it higher to this other person.
Right.
So like you can find a board game. Cool, I found this board game. Play Black Wall Street, the board game. Quick plug. It's $3 on this website. And then I'm finding this other person who's interested in also buying a board game, and they're willing to pay $10. So I'm going to write the contract that says I'm going to get this for $3, and then I'm going to immediately sell it to this other person for $10. So that's a very, very simplified version of kind of what wholesale real estate is.
And at first I was like, I don't get it, why, and how this is different from like agent. But then it says that they're usually selling to flippers who don't want to spend the time to find discounted properties or to like do the whole negotiation with the seller. They're like, miss me, I just want to find a property so that I can get to work. So they might work with a wholesaler. So briefly, wholesaling, do your research. Not nice. The next one is I think one that most people are probably familiar with, which is the fix and flip. So if you ever watch all those shows on HGTV,
shout out, yo, trying to be a sponsor, what's up?
So that's where you find a property that needs a little bit of rehab, you fix it up, and then you sell it right away. So usually it's going to be under market value when it's, you know, in the distressed stage or it needs rehab. You put money into the renovation, X amount of dollars into the renovation, it's now raised its market value, and you're selling it so that you keep the difference between what you bought it, what you sold it, minus the renovation costs. You keep that difference. So it's a good method to get cash relatively quickly. And I say relatively quickly because you're going to get it quicker than most probably other investments like stocks and things like that. It's probably take years for you to get this amount of money back. But it is work. It's a lot of work to do the renovation. Anything to add on that one?
I would just say you want to make sure you do the research. What's it called? The comparables. So look at the other homes in that area and make sure that you're going to be able to get a good return from it. Yeah. So if you're buying the house for $100,000 and you're planning on doing $100,000 of renovations, but you're looking at the homes around it and they're only selling for like $220,000, that's not a huge, like you're only making $20,000 maybe. So I would, just look into that. Maybe if you're putting $100,000 into it, you want homes around it, and this is California talk. Based on that, it's really California talk. But you want to make sure the homes around are like in the 400s, 500s. That way you're getting a lot of money back in return.
Yeah, so you want to work with a broker. Really, for any of these things, I mean, besides wholesaling, I think you want to work with a broker who's familiar with that in that area. Who can tell you, like, all right, in this area, you're going to be able to find something, and this property is definitely going to be worth the ARV, after repair value, which we talked about in the last podcast. Was that the last one?
Two
podcasts ago.
Under construction,
yes.
Episode 20 was a good one.
It was. Is going to be enough to where you're actually going to be able to get some profit off this.
A few things about fix and flip, and you can correct me because I know you know more real estate than I do. One, I feel like usually you have to go in either hard money or cash for those because you're an investor, so you should be prepared to have more money up front than some of these other ones that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Percentage wise, it can range from anywhere from 10%, 20%, 30% down on the purchase price. So for the fix and flip, it's really kind of for the folks that already have a little bit of a nest egg or a little bit of money to automatically invest in. How correct or incorrect am I on that?
You're pretty correct, and that's because you're, again, unless you have oodles of cash to pay for the renovation cash, is you're getting financing for the home and plus the renovation. So that's why you're generally going to need a little bit more. Now, you could probably find a hard money lender that's going to lend it to you for 20. First time investor, you're probably going to be putting like 30 down. So yeah, you're probably going to need to have a little bit more, which is why it's probably, if you only have a certain amount and you're like, I want to start with this amount, you need to go find a cheap market then, which we'll also get into later. But yeah, you're you're basically on.
So I've been listening, I tried.
Yes, you do. So the next method is the buy and hold method. So that's just exactly what it sounds like. You're buying it and you're holding on to the property, usually renting it out, because if it's just going to sit there, that's not doing you any good. So you buy it and then you're renting it out.
Or living in it.
But that's not an investment method.
Depends on what type of property it is. If it's a multi-family property.
True, and that is like a house hack they call it. Is you can buy a multi-family property, and you can even buy a multi-family property with something like an FHA loan where you only need 3% down. There's some other fees in there that they will tell you about, so it's really like 4.75% down. But yeah, you can buy a multi-family with a FHA loan and then rent out the other units. So that is a investment method, yeah.
Which will only be 3% down instead of the 4.75% down, instead of what we talked about earlier from 10 to 30%. So if you're low on cash, the buy and hold is looking a little bit better for you.
Right, especially if you can live in it. You have to live in it to get an FHA loan. But that's a house hacking way to get started in real estate that a lot of people use. And then the last one, there's really technically those main three categories, but we're doing kind of a hybrid of the last two. So we're doing like a rehab to rent, or we're trying to do a rehab to rent, which means we're searching for a property that is under market value that needs a little bit of renovation. We plan to put renovations into it, rehab it, so that it increases in value, and then we're going to hold on to it. So it's different from the fix and flip. We're not going to go and sell it right away. We're going to hold on to it and rent the property out. And basically what that allows you is the benefit of both the buy and hold and the fix and flip. So the benefit from the fix and flip method is that you get that quick cash right away from selling it. And the benefit from the buy and hold method is that you get cash flow on a monthly basis because you're renting out the property. So with the rehab to rent method, it's basically a hybrid to where you get the best of both worlds. So you, again, get a property that needs a little bit of work, you rehab it so that it increases value, you refinance the property. It's called a cash out refinance, which we'll get into later. But you refinance it so that you do get some money back from the increase in value. But then again, you're keeping it and you're renting it out, so you also get monthly rent payment. So it's the best of both worlds. Yeah.
So why for us did we choose the rehab and rent method? Copywritten by Sinclair, the health nerd.
It's really not.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Why did we choose that instead of the buy and hold or the other one, fix and flip?
Because we want. I think it's mainly just what we were just talking about. It's the fact that you get both. So with the rehab to rent, you get the monthly cash flow, which is something that we definitely want. Start right. You can get one to cover your mortgage, get one to cover your car bills, get one to cover your college tuition, and that is how wealth is built. But then you also, from that cash out refinance, that money you can get right away, you can take that and then do the whole process over again right away. So it's like an endless loop, and that's how wealth is built, because we get our first property. Let's say we get $1,500 in rent on a monthly basis. All right, cool. Now we have X amount of dollars to go reinvest in another property. We get another property. Now we have another $1,500 income in. Now we have $3,000 a month on top of whatever other income we might have. And then you literally just keep going. And imagine after 5 years of doing that, if you get multiple properties a month, hello?
All right. So again, going back to like the holistic health and specifically the economic health, we did a what was it the cost of being you?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Jamal King. We did the cost of being you. So how much is your mortgage? How much does it cost for you to take vacations? How much does it cost for you to look this darn good all the time? You know, you just oh goodness. But you write down all your costs and you figure out how you can buy properties to cover these costs or start businesses to cover these costs.
Yep.
So again, if you're able to be free of a job and be free of just all the other kind of stresses in life and just have these properties, hire a property management company to cover it for you, so your money you just get that mailbox money every month.
Yep.
Man, my stress is about to be cool.
Right.
My blood pressure is about to be solid.
Right.
My tan is, I don't know if it can get any better, but my melanin is going to be even more popping. So yeah, and that's why we're doing the mix of both methods. That way we can get multiple properties in a short amount of time and get freer quicker.
Yeah. And so like when we did the cost of being you, that was a cool exercise. It's a fun exercise. It's literally you just get to dream, and it's like, say in your wildest dreams, what house would you live in? We literally went on like one of those websites, Realtor, Redfin, or whatever, and we were like, okay, we want to live in a house like this. All right, let's see what the mortgage is.
And it wasn't that crazy. It was like a $2 million house.
Something like that, yeah. Well, all right, we want to live in a house like this. Basketball court, garden, home gym, all that good stuff. View. Yeah, so we were like, we want to live in a house like this. Want to drive this type of car. We want to be able to travel this many times a year. Once with the family,
once with the kids at home.
Exactly.
And once with the kids.
Right. We plan on having a relatively village.
Yeah,
like,
5. What's up? Y'all
another
heard
podcast.
it here, folks.
Another.
Y'all heard it here first. 5.
No, never came out of my mouth. But we want to have a nice big family, so traveling with a big family obviously costs a lot of money, but that shouldn't be a hindrance. We just want to be able to make enough money so that we travel. We going to Greece with the whole family. What?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we were able to outline all of those costs and like, okay, so in our wildest dreams, this is how much a month we need to make. And it was actually probably a lot lower than either of a spot, which was good. So it's like, oh, this is a couple years of real estate investing. Right. So yeah, it was a good little exercise to do, and a good exercise for you to do before you start investing in anything. Is kind of figure out your end goal. What are you doing it for?
And we talked about, and we're starting to ramble a little bit, but we'll get back to it. Y'all know we get passionate. But a few episodes ago, we talked about the crickets in the jar, right? And how when that jar is closed and the crickets are in it and they're jumping, they can't get past that ceiling. And even when you take the cap off, their muscles are now trained where they can't jump out of this jar. So by doing the cost of the future self, 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is, you're basically expanding how big your jar appears to you. Yep. And if you think like, okay, this is how much I need, $10,000 a month, or like my student, $100,000 a month, now you're going to train your muscles to be able to get there somehow, some way. Yep. So I would encourage y'all, even if you're not going to invest in real estate, if you're just trying to live your best life, figure out what your best life actually looks like and figure out how much it costs to live your best life. And then now you need to hustle, you need to start businesses, invest in stocks, invest in real estate, whatever your method is to make that dream come true.
Last thing I want to say on this is don't base it off of your current situation. So that is exactly how you keep that lid nice and tight. You don't want to do that. Or you keep the jar nice and small. Think about, you want to dream big and then figure out what you need to do to get there, right? Don't start to dream big and then be like, oh man, but I only make this, so that's probably not possible. So never mind. Maybe I actually only want a $500,000 house. Like, no, if you want a $3 million house, then put that you want a $3 million house and figure out what you need to do to get there. Don't sell yourself short.
That part. like $3 million in California versus $3 million in.
Gosh, that's like an amusement park somewhere else.
Jeez, this is completely different. But next point is what, Queen? Talk to me.
It's just going into the rehab to rent method. So we briefly talked about, speaking of California, kind of like what we want to do. So we are both California natives. If you are a California native, you have a very different outlook on real estate
costs.
Yes, real estate costs in general, because the same house in California, like you mentioned, somewhere else is like orders of magnitude higher. So one of the things we've talked about is, okay, well, maybe we're going to start reinvesting outside of California, because again, the cost of living is high here. So if you take we take our mindsets here and take it to someplace like Chicago, which is actually where we're looking to buy.
Or like North Carolina.
Detroit.
Or like Detroit.
Places,
Tulsa.
Yeah, there are a lot of places, Texas, like there are places in Texas that are so much cheaper. So even if you don't want to live there, that's okay. There are people who live there who will live in your property regardless.
Regardless. Yeah, that's already the episode. It's come up too many times.
So that's one place that we want to look at. And I was so shocked, so shocked to look at Chicago and see how cheap the real estate was, especially in a place of like Chicago. You would think like it's kind of like metropolitan. Yeah, there's a lot of people. So I would automatically compare it to like a San Francisco or New York or San Diego, just because it's more metropolitan, or Boston or something like that. So to see that, like, oh wow, it is very affordable to invest in Chicago for Californians was a pleasant surprise. So, and that's just one place, right? We've mentioned a whole bunch of different places you can look up. We are in one of the highest.
Right, if you're in California, it's one of the most expensive real estate markets in the nation.
Yeah, so literally any place you look will be cheaper, most places. But there are specific pockets that are good places because there are a lot of people. So a place like Chicago, it's obviously a highly populated city, but also the real estate is cheap, but the rents they're still cheap, way cheaper than California, but they're still they're high enough to where you can rent a place out and make profit, if that makes sense. So your mortgage can be a couple $100s, but you can rent a place out for $1,000 and make that, whatever that difference is going to be. And that would be just for like one unit. Let's say you got a four unit, do that times 4. Now you're getting $2,000 a month, whatever it is. But I did want to talk about kind of your hesitation with investing outside of California, because there might be people out there with that same hesitation.
Gotcha. All right, folks. So listen up, y'all. So my mindset is I'm a very hands-on oriented person. I feel like when we did the disc assessment, I'm personal. I like the interaction. I feel like I take that same thing with my investments. If my money's going somewhere, I want to be able to interact where my money is going. I want to be able to see it, feel it, touch it, all that good stuff. So I was very hesitant about investing in something that's so far away. And no disrespect to Chicago, but I don't want to live in Chicago. It's cold. Isn't Chicago the windy city?
Yes.
It snows. I'm from California. I go to snow for
a weekend.
Yeah, for a few days just to see what it's like. I don't want to live in snow. So yeah, the idea of investing outside of California in general, but specifically to a place that I don't necessarily want to live myself, was not popping to me at first. What was popping to me, we didn't really talk about it in detail, but when there was we were in Thailand, there was like condos for sale in Thailand. Yeah. I was like, I'll buy a condo in Thailand. Like, I don't mind coming back here for months at a time. I don't mind retiring here. When we were in Cinque Terre and there was condos, I was like, yep, I'll buy one of those for sure. But when it was Chicago, I was like, and it's closer. But I was like, I don't know.
Foreign places, he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And that's, again, to mindset-wise, like, maybe y'all can also think of, because I know I'm thinking about it, investing in foreign places for real estate as well. That's a whole other topic, so I'll zoom back. But for me, the thing that clicked is, one, I know you really wanted to do it, and I feel like I know your personality as a analytical person, And I feel like if you're willing to do it, that means that it's a good investment. And I'm trying to get better at separating emotions from investments. Because like you've talked to me so many times, Devon, you don't need to live there.
Right.
It's going to create cash flow for us without us ever having to go there. So think about the freedom, not you don't want to live there because it snows.
Right.
So I think that was helpful in really mapping out and seeing that, okay, we can get one property that may give $1,500, we can get another property that may get $3,000, and then because we did cash out free finance on these two, now we can get an even bigger one, and maybe this one will cash flow $4,000. So then now, boom, we just made, quick math, $8,500 a month in cash flow. So just to see that possibility of an investment that I never have to go to, that I can hire someone else to manage for me, I was just like, all right, bro, for sure. We about to send our money to Chicago.
Gang.
Yeah, that's a Boston accent. It's not a Chicago accent.
I've never been there. I've been to a nearby city for like a work conference one day.
I feel like Chicago accent, no disrespect, but for me, a Chicago accent is very similar to a Southern accent, and that's because of like during Great Migration times, like a lot of people from the South. What? Everything
connects to history. Back to history.
Yeah. A lot of people from the South, Mississippi, Texas, all those places went up to the urban centers. Specifically, Chicago was a big urban center for them. So, to me, it sounds slight Southern.
Gotcha. So, next part of the equation, right?
Okay.
We talk about to have a successful real estate investment. There's levels to this. There's different parts of the equation. So, right, first place.
Here goes the analyticalness. Here it comes.
The first place is where you're gonna buy, right? If you want to really make your money work for you, it probably makes sense to buy in a market that is less. What's the word I'm looking for? It's cheaper than your current market. So if you live in LA, if you have oodles of cash, go ahead and invest in LA. But if you don't, then you may want to go to an out of state place. Go somewhere lower in price so that it can really grow. Next part of the equation is actually, call it the 70% rule. I did not make that up. That is a thing. Look it up. Real estate 70% rule. But what it basically is saying, in terms of what we're trying to do, is that once we
prepare your brains for this. I don't know. You're about to get all the numbers. Please prepare your brains. If you have something to write with it. If you're driving, I'm sorry. Please continue to focus on driving.
So take the final price that you're going to sorry, okay, how can I?
And give real numbers, okay? So let's say the property costs $100,000.
Nice round number.
I got you.
Okay. So let's say the property costs $100,000 that you are buying, right? And it needs rehab. And I keep another nice round number. You need to put $100,000 worth of renovation into the property.
Okay.
Round numbers.
So we are at $200,000.
Yes.
I just want to say, because you went through this with me the other day, and I was like, yeah, Sinclair, my head hurts. I'm not. Like, woo. Go ahead. $200,000.
$200,000. Whatever that property is going to be worth, and I want to make sure I say this right. It needs to be worth, and this is hard to say because I usually go backwards, but it's whatever the final price is, it should be, you subtract the...
So $200,000 needs to be 70% of the final value that it costs.
Thank you. That's a better way to put it.
Yes, I don't know where you were going.
My mind sees it, but it's hard to explain it.
I can see it, but I just can't translate it into the words.
Yeah.
So 70% rule. The what you buy it for plus what you're renovating it for needs to be 70% of, so $200,000 times 0.7.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Equals X number. And I think I don't know.
Wait, what did you say? You said what?
$200,000 times 0.7 equals, boom, that's the final number.
Times 1.7.
1.7.
Yes.
Okay.
So times 1.7, the property needs to be worth that much once you're done with the renovations, basically. So take, again, we have you bought it for $100,000. You're putting in another $100,000. You're at $200,000. So if you take 1.7, which is going to be what?
For some reason, 340 is coming to my head, but I don't know if that's correct.
We'll go with 340. After the renovations, the property needs to be worth at least $340,000. So that's called the ARV, after repair value. A broker can tell you what the ARV for your property is going to be based on what you're trying to do with it, and the market that it's in. Basically means like other homes in that area need to be selling for something similar to 340, that are similar in quality, in price, all that stuff. So if you get to that, if you were going to invest and do that $200,000 and then the property is only worth $250,000, it's not a good investment. It does not meet the 70% rule, so that means you would not buy that property. That's kind of what it means. So there are a lot of brokers who know about this, and if you tell them this, will specifically look for these properties if they know that that's something important to you. Now, mind you, that is not important to every broker or everybody, so that's something that you're going to need to state. I'm trying to cash out refinance, so I need to find something that meets the 70% rule. Because if you're just trying to do a buy and hold, the 70% rule is not going to be as applicable because you're not trying to refinance. You're not trying to get any cash out of that. What you're gonna find in the buy and hold method is something that's going to be able to rent for a high amount on a monthly basis, which again might be is going to be different than some place that's going to increase in equity.
Right. And again, the reason why you want to use the 70% rule is if you have that buffer space, you now can do the cash out refinance and then buy something else or reinvest something. If you put in $200,000, the ARV or after repair value is only $250,000. You can't even get the full $250,000. You're only gonna get like 85% of the $250,000. So you're looking at $235,000. So you did all that work to only get maybe $30,000, which for some people may be a lot and good, but sometimes it's not.
And keep in mind, that might have been what you put into the property, right? There's still a down payment. So what you want to be able to get your down payment back plus, right? So if you find something that if you buy something that doesn't meet the 70% rule, not only are you risking not getting your down payment back, which makes it you're actually losing money, but you could also just make it so that you only get your down payment back, which again, you've netted now and you've done a lot of work for nothing really. So that's why the 70% rule is important. And you mentioned the cash out refinance, so I want to touch on what exactly that is. And that's basically your ability to refinance and literally cash out, so get liquid cash from the difference in the market value of the home. So if it started out at $100,000 and now it's worth $340,000, now keep in mind you still have the renovation cost that's in there, but that difference is what the equity is. So from $200,000 to $340,000, that's $140,000 that it is increased in value. You can actually tap into that. You can take out cash, liquid cash from that amount. Not all of it, right? They want to be able to keep some equity into the property, but you can take out a good chunk of that money and then again reinvest that into another property, or use that for a business, or use that to pay off loans, whatever it is. But we recommend you keep the loop going and reinvest it into property. That's what we're going to be doing. But yeah, you can use it we've talked about we can give ourselves business grants. So you don't have to really rely on another financial institution. You start this loop and you have every couple months, you're going to have access to cash flow that you can use for different business ventures, for different bills, whatever you need to. So it's a really good avenue a line of credit basically for you to be able to use.
All right. And I want to further explain cash out refinance just a little bit. So you get one loan for $200,000 to buy the property and to renovate the property. You then apply for a separate loan that's going to be more, so let's say $340,000, right? This new loan you use to pay your old loan, so this is now done, and then you have that $140,000 that's extra, quote unquote, that gets cashed out to you. So you still have a mortgage on the 340. So you still pay that payment. Don't make that real clear. You still have that mortgage payment of whatever per month to pay that, but you got access to that liquid cash. So for whatever reason, if you wanted to put this liquid cash into the mortgage for whatever reason, I don't think that's a smart idea, but if you wanted to do it, you could put it back in there or never take it out to begin with. But again, we suggest you take that money and then be able to put it somewhere else where your money can grow and work for you. All right. Next point, Queen. What we got next?
Well, we're talking about money, so I do just want to touch on hard money lending, because that is a big thing when you're talking about real estate investing. So I'm not an expert, but what I know about hard money lending is it is basically an alternative for than conventional financing. So when you're going to like getting any type of conventional loan, right, the terms are usually 15 to 30 years that you're making payments on it. A hard money lender is a hard money loan is a shorter term loan. So they're usually way shorter term. So like there you can find them from like 6 months to like a year or two or something like that. So they're shorter term, so that because usually you're going to be either selling the property or refinancing or something like that. So it's a loan with basically a shorter term. And pre-COVID, apparently you could find money lenders that will lend it to you for like 10% down. So of the purchase price, sometimes plus the renovation, sometimes they'll cover all of the renovation and it's just the purchase price. But anywhere between like 10% to 30% is what you'd have to put down for a hard money loan. But again, if you're buying in LA, that's a lot of money. If you're buying in Chicago, that's a couple grand. Depending on the property. Right. There's still $1 million properties in Chicago, but there's also multi-family units for $50,000. I'll repeat that one more time. There's also multi-family units for $50,000.
Yeah.
So if you think about what 10 to 30% of $50,000 is, it's minimal compared to what it would be in LA. So that's why the formula works,
Right. A few other differences between conventional loans, FHA loans, and the hard money is going to be the interest rate as well.
Yes.
So the interest rate for a conventional FHA is going to be, right now interest rates are looking beautiful,
right,
but it can be from like 2.75 to maybe like 5%. The quote unquote highest, again, not professionals. Whereas the hard money loans, and Sinclair may know a little bit better than me, but that percentage is looking upwards of
maybe 8 to 12.
Which doesn't sound like a huge difference, but 8 to 12% on a $200,000 loan is kind of significant.
Yeah. There are higher interest rates that you're paying. But then again, it's for that shorter term loan, and there's usually not not an expert, but
we're going through it, y'all. We're trying to go through it.
There's not any. I have not come across prepayment penalties. So even though my term may be for a year, but I'm going to refinance after 6 months, like they're like, cool, that's fine. Yeah.
So again, we hope that this episode is going to be just like a seed being planted. It's like, oh, real estate, there's all these options. I can do this, I can do that. Rehab and rent, buy and hold, Chicago's cold. Sorry, dude. So please make sure y'all do your own research. We are not professionals, but hopefully this can be a seed and inspiration for y'all to get in the game.
I feel like it's no coincidence that most millionaires are somehow invested. Most wealthy people.
I forgot about these statistics.
Yes, you got it.
So, The Wealth Choice by Dennis Kimbrough, dope book. We are reading it for our Playback Wall Street Academy. So, inside of that, like Dennis Kimbrough, he interviewed hundreds of millionaires and collected the data. And based on the data, they said that 16% of millionaires, of black millionaires specifically, made their wealth from real estate. And then when asked what is a good investment strategy or investment opportunity, 60% said a diversified portfolio, and 30% said investing in real estate or owning your home. So we're not, pulling this stuff out of the ether, out of the universe. Like, there has been research done, there has been many interviews, books written on it. So please, get in the game.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Because you're spending money regardless. Come on, Sinclair, you know the episode. We'll do it again. Because you're spending money regardless. Thank you. Oh, that was better. Appreciate it. What else you got, Queen?
That's pretty much it.
Oh, that was it? That was a faster little wrap up than usual. My bad, folks. I didn't know that was the last thing. I usually be like, all right, let's wrap up the episode.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Think about think about your favorite celebrity that you look up to because they have all this money. They're probably invested in some real estate.
You would hope. I don't know. Some of these celebrities, they don't be doing wise stuff, but you would hope.
You would hope. I feel like I hear in songs a lot
yeah. Shout out to Sweetie. I feel like investing in my business.
Yeah, I feel like she said that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard Iggy Azalea say that in a song too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, hear people talk about getting into real estate. There is a reason why, because there is money there. Again, it is a necessity. You have in your Black Wall Street
Academy.
No, in the workshops that we do for Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about starting a business in the sexy sectors and then the essential sectors.
Yeah.
Real estate is an essential sector, right? So whether you're going to start a business, investing in real estate is a real estate business that you're starting, basically. But I put your money to work in an essential business. I think that is going to be the best way. So whether if you're going to do stocks, technology is hot right now. You should probably be doing some type of investing in companies that have to do with technology. But in that same way, because the technology is essential right now. We're 2020.
Right.
But in that same way, real estate will always be essential, again, because as long as there are people here on this earth, we are going to need some place to live. Don't be scared. I feel like there's a lot of... I feel like there is a lot of... it's kind of taboo. I've heard people, I feel like a couple of years ago, I think I was on a work call or something talking about, oh, yeah, we're going to buy a house. And they were like, oh, you're still in that dream? That's a pipe dream. Give up that dream. It's just okay, if you say so. But I don't think it's a pipe dream.
California.
Yeah, I feel like it's being in the California mindset and obviously also keep in mind that people might have gone through a housing crisis before, probably have a decreased level of trust in investing in real estate. We're fresh minds. We lived through it, but didn't necessarily. That wasn't our money. That was lost. So. Don't be too scared. Yes, the market can be volatile a little bit, but I don't think that it's something you need to really be scared of.
Right. Over the long term.
Right, long term.
If you're thinking, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you're going to pass these properties down to your kids. 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, they're going to pass it down to their kids. 50 years, 40 years, 30 years. You're not going to take an L.
Right.
Even if you personally take an L, if you still own it and you pass it down to your kids, they now have a place to live for free. Right. So it's think generational.
Right.
Think generational. One really quick swerve, and then we can do a farewell.
Me too, because our food's on the way.
Perfect. Shout out to Postmates. Y'all are not a sponsor, but hey, we appreciate y'all. And shout out to Potluck Community, even better. Y'all are a sponsor. Hey. Founder, CEO. I see you.
Right.
My bad. So we're talking about Jeff Bezos is trying to have people live in the stratosphere of the earth. Maybe we'll talk about that even more. But we were saying if people are living on Earth, there's going to be a time where if Jeff Bezos has his way, people are going to be living on almost satellites around. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of the True Health Forever podcast.
Drop that and then end.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the True Health Forever podcast, where we try to live our best life through the lens of holistic health. I'm your host, Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, and much confusion on this podcast.
My name is Sinclair, aka
The Health Nerd. We hope y'all stay healthy. We hope y'all stay mentally wealthy. And of course, we hope y'all stay
true.